but I can report from the Kent coast that the sunshine is glorious. I've actually been in the English Channel this morning. One of the benefits of a little bit of warming is that, you don't need to go abroad. The English Channel is warm. No sign of any migrants where I am. A little bit too far east, I suspect.
Yes.
But, look, we've heard this sort of nonsense being reported about the EU rejecting the idea that we can return people. But this is old news.
Yeah.
It really is old news. The reality, Mike, is that what is required is something that doesn't exist within Westminster, and that is courageous, strong, bold leadership.
Yeah.
Because I've said it before, and I will say it until I'm absolutely blue in the face, that we can legally, under existing international treaties that the French and the people in Brussels can do nothing about because they are written, they are in law, we can pick these people up, we can safely take them back to Dunkirk and to Calais and to the beaches of France and return them from whence they left. That is the safe, it's the kind, it's the compassionate thing to do. It's the only thing that will actually stop the boats and stop the deaths. And we could do that. Here's my prediction, though, Mike. I think that this crisis is going to roll on. It's going to grow and grow. The fury of the British people will increase to such an intense tempo that actually, eventually, the Conservative government, or should I say con-socialist, weak government, eventually they will actually listen to my advice and they will start to do exactly what I say, because that's the only thing that will stop it. And I don't think that the British people will put up with this through until the next general election.
I don't think so either. But the problem is, Richard, as you know, that the entire sort of infrastructure around the migrant story is pro-migrant. You know, you've got the RNLI steaming, as we've just heard Oliver Whitfield-Miocic, 24 knots, which is bloody fast on the boat on top of water. That's really quick. 24 knots, rushing to the aid of the capsized migrants. Fair enough, but they're only somewhere between 6 and 9 miles off the coast of France. Apparently, the French rescue service was doing about 8 knots, meandering towards them, and when they got to them, they picked up a few, but most of them were picked up by the RNLI and went the other sort of 25 miles in the opposite direction with the people who had capsized off the coast of France. Now, as long as you've got that going on, we're never going to take them back.
It's actually worse than that. In my second Sunday sermon 2 days ago, I actually said that all of these vested interests, the vast majority of whom are making serious money, serious cash at our expense. But some of the people with blood on their hands are the French Navy captains who escort them to the midpoint in the Channel, when what they should be doing is they should be blocking them, they should be picking them up, and they should be taking them back to France. For heaven's sake, we're literally paying the salaries of all these people, the gendarmes and all the French military and border authorities involved with this. We sent them £500 million of our hard-earned cash, and all they do is transport them very nicely to the midpoint. Right. The whole thing's completely absurd.
And let me ask you a question, because you'll remember these days. I mean, one of the reasons why Channel crossings increased massively was because we were able to prevent people jumping on lorries. You know, the security was made better at Calais. You know, the various, methods of detecting people inside of lorries was made better. No human rights lawyers at that time said these people must have the right to jump in the back of a lorry and jump out of it somewhere on the A1 so that they can live a happy life somewhere in Lincolnshire. None of them did. So why are they suddenly now defending the right of these people to come here illegally by another means?
A, because it's more visible, and B, because I think bluntly, the numbers have got so great and there's just more cash involved. And there was a huge illegal trade in the back of the lorries. You could almost, if that was going on to a large degree now, you could hear them say, oh, it's inhumane for them to be in the back. You better create a nice comfy seat for them to join up in the front of the cab.
Just get a coach.
Just get a coach. Look, the whole thing, I mean, it drives us all absolutely nuts. But I regret to say that this will not stop. And for all those bleeding heart Ramona rejoiners banging on about the Dublin Agreement and we left and that, let me tell you the facts. The facts are that under the Dublin Convention, the EU sent us 5 times more people than we sent back to the EU. So that wasn't exactly helpful. And the number we used to send back was in it was in the low hundreds. Whereas, as we know, we're now receiving tens and tens of thousands every year, and we've got a backlog of, give or take, 170,000. Here's my other prediction this morning, exclusively to you, Mike. That is that the backlog will grow to some 200,000 before the next general election. Just imagine that, 200,000.
I mean, again, they've been telling us for so long, and you'll still hear them. I mean, I saw somebody pop up on TalkTV yesterday, some bloke from Amnesty International talking about, it's a very low number compared to the numbers of people that flood into to Europe on an annual basis. Well, I'm not interested in how many people come to Europe. I'm interested in how many people come to Britain. You know, the idea is that we are a sovereign nation. We left the European Union for a reason, and the reason was so that we could determine how many people are allowed to come here. And this government is failing miserably at it.
Completely. And here's the point. If Rishi Sunak showed the sort of bold, courageous leadership that I've just talked about and picked up and took the boats back to France, that sets a fantastic, stellar, global leading example of how to stop the boats. And then the leaders across the whole of the European Union could then say, yes, my word, he's right. Maybe that's what we should do in the Mediterranean. Let's pick them all up and take them back to North Africa. And guess what? The boats will stop and people will stop dying. And in the Med, tragically, I believe it's nearer 2,000 that they think may have died just this year. They have no real idea. So many are crossing. But the moment the business model stops, everybody is taken back to the departure point, the beach at which they left, then this thing stops within a matter of weeks.
And interesting, isn't it, that apparently the Albanian drug gangs have found an even newer route to come. According to a piece in a Telegraph today, or maybe yesterday, they've decided they can come via Santander as well now.
And no surprise there, I didn't believe a word of it when the government was sort of pontificating with great spin and joy that they'd stop the Albanians coming. They'd obviously just found another route. It now looks as though that seems to be the one because they are essentially, they're the foot soldiers of the drugs gangs, the criminal gangs, in order to come and act as runners or to come and basically look after the barbers' shops, the car washes, to help launder the vast hundreds of millions of illegal profits. The numbers here at every level in terms of money are off the scale. I mean, they are, if not hundreds of millions, the profits are in the billions. And it's us, the British taxpayer, that is suffering, that is paying. And I think the numbers are so great that this is part of the reason why, frankly, our finances are so bad, part of the reason why there's no real wage growth. And so many people are saying that it's unfair. What's the point of me stressing and striving and working hard when these people are all on the make and the take and I'm the mug paying for it?
Yeah. Absolutely right. Norman says this: how long before the RNLI actually sail to the French beaches to collect the economic migrants? The bleeding heart do-gooders need to be put in their place now. Well, I think that's how an awful lot of people feel. I can't let you go, though, Richard, without your comments this morning on the net zero referendum, because, of course, that's now something that's growing in popularity as an idea. They're doing a referendum in Poland on migration and immigrants. Can we have a referendum on net zero?
Well, once again, Mike, you see, I don't follow fashion, I lead it, because Nigel and I proposed this referendum back in March 2022
right.
And received such uproar that we couldn't even find, the venues weren't allowed to host for us to hold rallies. I know that that's one of the reasons why I've had some banking issues because of my views on net zero. Yeah, I'd love a referendum on net zero. We'd win it hands down, we'd win it 70-30. But the truth is the establishment, the last thing they want, and the eco-zealots and cultists, the last thing they want is to put it to the people, because when they do that, they seem to find with the referendums that the people don't do what they say, Mike. The people act with their common sense, with their gut instinct, and they vote with their feet and with their wallet.
Well, the people support what you and I say, Richard, because we speak common sense. You know, the sort of the Westminster Bubble Brigade wouldn't know common sense if they fell over it.
They wouldn't. They absolutely wouldn't. That's the reality. So, look, I'd love a referendum on it. I'd get well stuck in, but I don't think the establishment will grant it. But what I have declared, and I think many people recognise, we are at the point of peak net zero.
Yeah.
And it's now acceptable. It's just about okay to challenge it. We've been leading the way on that, and we've got some scars on the back, but we will keep banging the drum. It's the greatest self-inflicted financial harm and madness that's sending our jobs and our cash, hard-earned wealth overseas. And actually, it's not saving any emissions at all. In fact, it's creating more CO2 emissions. The more shale gas we buy from America, for heaven's sake, we create 3 or 4 times the CO2.
I know. It's absolutely crazy. Absolutely ridiculous.